So we're looking at doing, and we're also looking at possibly moving fine and performing arts out of Xavier into a complex up here so that the fine and performing arts department is physically located in the arts and entertainment district so that the synergies with the, you know, students studying music or whatever and the proximity to the musicians at the symphony, it makes all of those synergies much better. So the buildings upon Locust, we're hoping they'll be renovated with retail on the ground floor, probably residential or office above. And then this building right here, and this is a historic livery stable. Those we're reserving right now to wait and see if the theater department can move up there. This is our grounds operation. That's going to go away. That'll move into this complex over here. So that's pretty much everything that's going on around this campus. I can't think of anything else. Does anybody have any questions on this campus? Yeah.
It's not really related to this, but okay. I mean, all that is SLU property. Does DPS have any jurisdiction over that?
Yeah.
Just not over the drain. So.
Right. Right. So public safety has jurisdiction over our property, and they do patrol up here. And you know, if they see something happening here, that's not to say that they wouldn't if they saw something on the street. But we don't really have authority to come into there and do things off our property.
And I can call SLU, right? Just next to the drain, right?
Yeah. You say I need a ride, and I'm gonna be right there.
Well, I had two questions. My first one actually was about security. With all of this development back here, just from living in Coronado and getting the DPS emails about, there's been several, you know, handgun robbery, you know, held up at gunpoint right behind Coronado.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this neighborhood and up in that area, what are we going to do about security to make, I mean, one of the appeals of St. Louis University is that it is gated and very well patrolled, and now that we have these little blobs everywhere, how are we going to, you know, if we're developing that, what's the security risk? What are we?
Well, if these properties on Locust are developed, that would be in conjunction with a for-profit developer, and they would really be responsible. They would be able to rent to their own tenants, etc. If it's a university department, like the museum is up here, or the law school has a building, you know, that's over here. We pay special taxes. We're not taxed on real estate because we're tax exempt. However, we chose to be taxed on all the real estate we own up here as part of this special taxing district, which is supposed to go for security. So you see that Grand Center car. I think they need to shift their hours of patrol because they stop patrolling like at 10. Well, usually I think a lot of the problems are when the bars are closing and things like that. So we're going to talk to Grand Center about that. And the other thing that I'm considering as part of public safety is I'm looking at moving all of our officers into armed status. One of the problems that I'm uncomfortable with is I can put extra security on Laclede, let's say, you know, when the bars close. A lot of my flexibility, though, is maybe the people that I can pull to do extra patrols, they're unarmed. I feel like we're going to have much better flexibility and security if we go to armed status with all of the officers. So that's one of the things we're looking at. We also tried last year, we actually have been trying for, I don't know, 5 years, to get our status changed by the Missouri General Assembly to allow our police to actually bleed police officers, which means if they saw something happening at the break, they would have all the authority to do something the same as a police officer would do. Now when we stop and interfere but stop any crime like that, our public safety officers are basically making a citizen's arrest. It's just, I think, and most universities have commission status, and Washington University has it on their Hilltop campus, but in the city, only the publics have it. And I just don't think it's right. I think we should be able, like St. Louis Community College or Forest Park Community College or Harris Stowe, we should have the same, our security people should have the same powers.
My other question has to do with the development and housing. Argyle might be able to kind of go along with that, but I know there was, there's been the new legislation where, I'm fuzzy on the details, where you're required to live on campus now. Is there any concern about housing space, and is there development being looked at? I know you haven't mentioned, but I'm just curious.
Ken Porterfield, the new VP, has been working with my staff and other departments as well to put together a study about housing. I don't know, Argyle, if we can say any more about that at this point or not.
I think it's a little preliminary because I know we're going to be presenting to the executive staff and everything in October, but there is no housing requirement right now for anybody on campus, freshman or otherwise.
Okay.
But I do, Kathleen is right, we've been working very hard to try to look at our current facilities, but also where the future of the university is going with this. And, you know, I hope that we can talk to you about that later this semester.
Because there's a number of options. Do we use our money to build more, or do we master lease because developers are building mostly student housing all around us? And do we then use our money? Developers aren't going to come in and expand the rec center for us or add on to the library or add on to the law school, but developers love to build housing that our students will fill up. So if they have the equity and the financing wherewithal to go build student housing, that then allows us to take our money and say, okay, we're going to go invest in, something else. So it may not be that we build more, it could be that we master lease, or, there's a lot of options being considered.
Sorry, Glenn. Keep on this side. Yeah. How much did we pay for the state office building and the adjacent lands?
The entire transaction was $6.15 million, and that included this entire parking lot and the building.
And how much was that? Like assessed
The appraised value, actually, we had an appraisal that was over $7 million. So we had two appraisals. One was like 5 point something, and one was over $7 million. And actually, this is the second piece of property we bought from the state. We bought one on the other campus that I'll talk about. And they are really good to work with. They don't really try and, I don't know, maybe they should be, but they don't try and, like normal property owners, and try and make a huge big profit off of us. They pretty much say, here's the value, that's what it is, and that's what goes. And they actually had to approve the sale. The whole Missouri legislature had to vote on that.
And I just have a couple more. The church that's on the
Maria?
right side, yeah.
Here?
Is there a future use for that, or?
Right now there isn't. We are not going to demolish it. The church is on the historic register, and it has significance not just from the age of it, but from a civil rights standpoint as well. We do not have intentions of demolishing it. However, we will expand the parking here so that we maximize what parking is available, so that we can use it for, until some use is identified for the former church, we could use sell parking here for the arena.
And is there future uses for all the other lands that are up to the north there? Are we gonna keep a hold of that land, or are we gonna sell that?
No, we're not gonna sell any of it, and the trustees were pretty firm about it, because a couple developers said, we just wanna buy outright here, and really, it was the trustees that said no. Some president down the road is gonna hate the fact that they gotta go back and reacquire that corner. So anything we do, if it's not our development, it'll be done on a ground lease.
And my last one is the Shell parking lot on Grant. Was there ever a move to try to use eminent domain to make that?
No, we haven't. I mean, honestly, I thought, okay, if there's any justifiable cause for eminent domain, it's a building that's been boarded up for 25 years and nobody will do anything with it. It would be really expensive, I think, to try and condemn out the filling station, but no, we haven't. Now, that's not to say, I'm going to talk a little bit on school here, but not totally. There's a real exciting possibility of a development. If you can visualize spring, I'm standing right in front of me. Okay, here's spring. This is like where the Aquinas Institute, if you know where they moved as part of that. Okay, there's a developer that we're talking to that wants to do a huge development on this side of Forest Park. They show it on their map coming up to Grant, but I'm like, you just went through our building here. But the exciting thing is they're planning a Target, a grocery store, like huge development that we would just kill to have, and literally it would be in walking distance. So if you can visualize that real old like smelter foundry, that if you're on Highway 40 and you're going east where you get by what used to be Famous and Bar Warehouse, now Macy's Warehouse, and you're going on the highway, and Macy's Warehouse is over here, and on your left is like this wall of a foundry on the highway itself. That fronts on the other side on Forest Park. They're closing, their employees have been notified. So the city's working with this developer who would take up that entire thing, clean it up, and then develop predominantly retail. And I mean, they showed us a list of retailers, and at some point they may want to do focus groups with the students or something. But you know, like they gave us lists of these are the types of retailers we would go after. So it could be Whole Foods or Trader Joe's or something like that. It could, Target is definitely in there. You know, they had the Gap on there or Old Navy on there. So they, you know, there's a lot, and there's nothing like that in the city. You know, so I think it would be phenomenal. We're working very closely with the city to promote that happening.